Welcome to the Fantasy Draft Room. I am Trophy Chase. You can find me on Twitter at Trophy Chase TFDR. And as always, my main man, Cody, where can they find you at?
Yeah, at Cody Smith TFDR over on Twitter. You can check out all of our content. The combined account is at _ TFDR on Twitter. Hopefully, you're catching this live on YouTube at the Fantasy Draft Room. And check out the podcast if you want to listen to that format. Wherever you find your podcast, we should be there. If we're not, let us know. We'll try to get it there.
And we are live for the first time. So for anyone that is in here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a fun episode here as we are 5 weeks in to the NFL season. We are going to be doing a player value mock draft of sorts. Just going to assess and kind of go back and forth, look at some of the players in Dynasty, where they're at now, and kind of discuss the risers and fallers and some of the guys that we should be looking to acquire right now in Dynasty. Anything you want to add to that one?
Yeah, we're going to go back and forth, make the picks. So it's almost going to kind of be like our rankings, but we're going to be going back and forth. So you'll get a mix of my rankings, you'll get a mix of Chase's rankings, and we're going to go back and forth, make the picks, see where, all these old vet quarterbacks have fallen down to, see where our wide receiver heavy strategy has lifted our wide receivers up into, see who's the tight end one anymore. So we'll see who makes that pick first, maybe. It should be really fun. I don't think I've seen anybody else do anything like this. So we're going to give it a shot, see how it goes, and hopefully you all enjoy.
And next week, we are going to be doing a 8-round full-on mid-season mock draft. So if you are interested in being a part of this mock draft, find us on Twitter. Let us know. We'll make sure we get you the sleeper link. You have to be available and ready to go. We don't want any slackers. So let's kick things off here. Who are you taking at the Mystery 101 spot right now?
It's a mystery 101, but it ain't much of a mystery. I think everybody knows who the 101 is. It is the absolute locked and loaded fantasy quarterback one for the entirety of the year outside of injury. He's going to keep doing that for a long time, we hope. And I'd love to watch Josh Allen throw the ball all over the field, run the ball like a power back. He is probably the most dynamic and fun player to watch in the NFL right now.
Yeah, absolutely no doubt about it. I don't think anything's changed between the offseason and right now. I'm with you in lockstep. So I do have a change at the second slot, though. And it might surprise some, but I don't think there's any way you can deny Lamar Jackson and what he's done this year. He's kind of quieted the critics, the people that have doubted him. Yeah, he doesn't have a contract, but I have no doubt in my mind that this man with his rushing upside, I mean, even rushing floor, like there's no such thing as a bad week with Lamar Jackson. And I'm going to take that. If he stays in Baltimore, which I hope he does, they're going to continue to build that offense. They're going to continue to thrive. I have to take Lamar, man.
Yeah, and this is one of the few picks. We tried to keep most of these picks to ourselves beforehand, but this is one of the few picks we did talk about of, who do you have at the QB2? And I was right there with you. Kind of surprised you as well. I've got Lamar right there too as well. It's just that rushing floor, man. It's week over week consistency where Mahomes or Herbert or somebody could get shut down for a week with, that too high coverage that everybody in the NFL apparently can't play against anymore. Lamar Jackson doesn't care when it's too high. It just opens up more running lanes for him. So Lamar Jackson, he may have a shorter shelf life at the quarterback position than some of these other guys, but I don't think it matters. I think you still got to go Lamar with his just base floor, and his upside is just super high.
2 to 3 year windows, can't pass on that. So exactly. Yeah, what do you got at 3 here?
At 3, I'm going to go with the guy who was jumped by the other guy. I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, he's done it for longer. I've seen the consistency. I've seen the production. I still have some concerns about LAC's, future as just a team overall. Brandon Staley, I know for fantasy, we kind of like it going for 2 every play and not kicking field goals, but going for it on 4th down, not kicking field goals, going for 2 at the goal line. But for the long-term stability of his NFL career, I can't pass up. I know it's 2 to 3 year windows, but Patrick Mahomes and Herbert are just neck and neck for me. And that is one of the few cases where I will actually take the long-term stability that I see with Patrick Mahomes compared to Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I'm taking, Justin Herbert at number 4 here. I do have those two guys the exact same back and forth. I go back and forth, I should say. Like Justin Herbert, obviously an elite talent. He's shown he can do it all, and he's so young. But I am worried. I am worried that he's going to potentially have another offensive coordinator within the first 4 years of his playing time in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has got stability at the coaching staff. They just need weapons, and he's producing really well this year with the limited weapons that he does have. Travis Kelsey still around. Like, give me that 2 to 3 year window with him. I can't argue with you on either one of those guys. So it's pretty status quo for the first 4 here.
Yep. I think it is status quo, and 5 is where we see the first big movement from my pick, because at 5, jumping all the way up into this top 6 range, it is going to be the QB of a Mr. Where is he? A Mr. Jalen Hurts. He's been absolutely on fire so far this year, and there's no reason for it to stop. He secured his long-term contract. They brought in A.J. Brown. We've seen Smitty being the one even to pop off over the last couple of weeks. Dallas Goddard, I mean, he's even risen an incredible amount up my rankings since the preseason just because of the amount that this offense is great. I mean, Miles Sanders is even good in this offense. Jalen Hurts has taken this offense to a whole new level, and he's taken himself all the way up to the 105, or not the 105 in terms of value for me.
Yeah, no arguments here either. I have Kyler ahead of him just because he does have the contract locked in for sure. I still think Jalen Hurts gets his contract. I don't see why they wouldn't at this point. But yeah, I love what Jalen Hurts has done. Ray has talked about it all offseason that, A.J. Brown is going to do for Jalen Hurts what Stefan Diggs did for Josh Allen, and he absolutely has. It's elevated everyone on that team. It's just another weapon that they have to throw the ball to. That run game is prolific. Devonta Smith is an elite talent on his own. So you have 2 alpha wide receivers, a really good tight end, that run game. Yeah, I have no reason to think that Jalen Hurts is going to slow down. So, yep, I'm with you there. And like I put there, Kyler Murray, I have those 2 back-to-back. Same kind of thing. Rushing upside. He has weapons there. He's looked really good with Hollywood. They're about to get, D-Hop back. That offense is going to be fun to watch. Their defense is awful. So it's going to be the Kyler Murray show. Let's see what happens there.
Yeah, so going back to those 2, though, just breaking down these 2, because I obviously had the first pick here. So I had Jalen Hurts above Kyler Murray. You actually still have Kyler Murray above Jalen Hurts?
I have them back to back. You could go either way, and it's purely because of the contract. It's a small thing, but I have them back to back. So to me, it's nitpicky, like when it comes to those 2.
Yeah, for me, it's just the rushing upside that I've seen this year. Kyler Murray has not rushed the ball anywhere near the amount that he has in the past, and I know it's better for his long-term durability, but Jalen Hurts with a floor of just like almost 10 rushes a week, I just can't pass that up compared to Kyler Murray, who looks being told not to run right now. I'm just going to take that floor. And while he doesn't have the contract yet, I just can't see a world outside of injury that he doesn't get it.
Yep, I'm with you. I do agree. I just had to go based on today. And you are right. Like, Kyler isn't running as much this year. I do think it's to preserve him for the second half of the season where we've, consistently seen his Call of Duty struggles. So, we'll see what continues on for Kyler. But I think that's a locked in top 6. Like, you can't argue one way or the other. You can kind of put them in any order you want and make yourself happy with that top 6. So where are you at number 7?
Real quick, just before I make this pick at the 7th, some people might be questioning why you don't have a Kyle Pitts or a running back or really any other position other than quarterback, and it's because these guys are just in an absolute different tier than everybody else right now. There's no positional value that I can get anywhere else that's close to what a top 6 quarterback is in the league right now. I don't care if it's Jonathan Taylor. I don't care if it's Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews. I don't care if it's the guy that I am going to take here at 7, though, and the wide receiver 1, not the running back 1, Justin Jefferson coming off the board with the 7th highest value player in Dynasty right now for me.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson is absolutely the Cooper Kupp of the Minnesota Vikings. And he's so young, so prolific. I can't argue with him going off the board here. And as you said, with the top six there, I think there's clearly a tier break between the six and what we're about to get into. So yeah, give me the best position player there is in football. Justin Jefferson, man. He's going to get his 10 targets a game and do work.
Yeah, it's really just he's so much better, and we've seen a clear separation, in my opinion, from him and Jamar Chase. With Chase's production struggles over the first 5 games of the season, that Justin Jefferson is a good bit ahead of Chase, in my opinion. So who do you have here at the 8?
Yeah, my next pick here is going to surprise some people. I do have Deshaun Watson, and the reason why I put him in this next tier with just below the top 6, one, he could easily elevate himself back into that top 6 if he is what he was prior to the year off, the suspension, and with that run game that they have already, and how Jacoby Brisket has looked, that team with Deshaun Watson could be incredible. So I'm excited to see what he can do when he gets on the field with them. It is kind of a gamble pick, but when you're looking at the tier of quarterbacks that we're in, for me, he was head and shoulders above the next group with your non-mobile guys, and he's a guy that you could see crack this top 6. So I wanted to take him here. I still think he's super valuable. He's about to 5 games away, 6 games away from coming back. So I'm taking Deshaun Watson. I'm leaving him up here at the 8 slot.
Yeah, I think we've gotten close enough to the point of his comeback to where it's okay to start putting him back up to this range. You're really not missing much, especially, if we're going to talk about it in a team aspect, you've already known that your team isn't going to compete this year. You're fine just punting for the year and taking a Deshaun Watson, or maybe you're fine getting him for a playoff push, although I'm not really in on a playoff push because he has not played football for a long time at this point. But I do think you're right in that if he comes back anything close to the level that he was performing at whenever he was still playing in Houston, he should get himself back into this top 6 mix, top 7 mix of the top end quarterbacks.
Yep. Got some rest to shake off, but let's see where you're at number 9.
Yeah, number 9. I know I said there was a clear separation between the two of them, but there's not that much separation. He hasn't fallen past the second wide receiver overall. It's still Jamar Chase. The talent is undeniable. Cincinnati hasn't been good so far this season. He's been getting double, triple teamed. We've seen that Joe Burrow still refuses to take the checkdowns and, doesn't really like targeting anybody else but Jamar Chase. So he's still going to get his. And eventually I do think this offense will figure it out. Jamar Chase will get himself back up into the top 2, maybe top 5, end of season type of player.
Yeah, he's just too good. And they'll figure out how to beat the cover 2 at some point this season. So I'm with you. Take Jamar Chase. I do have actually him. I have him just behind who I'm taking here at 10. I have Mark Andrews all the way up here in the first round, top 10 player. He's a true difference maker at the position. Not only just tight end, but he is one of the most elite wide receivers out there as well. And we're doing this as a tight end premium as well, looking at tight end premium value because that's how most of the leagues are that we're in. And I don't think you can not have him up here in a top 10 value dynasty right now.
Yeah, he's my tight end one as well right now. I've moved Kyle Pitts down. Hopefully, if you were lucky enough to have a Kyle Pitts share in the offseason, you could down tier to Mark Andrews and pick up a first probably. I mean, it's incredible the value that we were placing on Kyle Pitts without him ever really performing. And while I do think Kyle Pitts is still a great player, I need to see some sort of production before I'm going to start spending 3 firsts on him again, like some people were doing in the offseason. So Mark Andrews, we've seen it for year over year over year. He's attached to our QB2 in value right now with Lamar Jackson. And there's no wide receiver that's going to supplant Andrews as his favorite target in that offense. So as long as Lamar is there, Mark Andrews is the tight end one in Dynasty.
There was a stat that we were looking at just yesterday, and Mark Andrews is the first and only tight end to have over a 30% target market share for his team ever. And
absolutely incredible.
He's improving on what he did last year. So the sky is the limit for that guy. Mark Andrews, gimme.
Yes, sir. Let's get into probably one of the oldest players. I think so. Yeah, definitely going to be I think the oldest player that we're going to have on this board so far, at least. It's undeniable the amount of talent that Cooper Kupp is putting on the field right now. I don't care what his age is. If you're going to give me that level of production week over week over week, I don't care how long it lasts for. I will ride him into the dust until he falls apart. Cooper Kupp is an absolute beast for fantasy football, and he is my wide receiver 3.
Wow. But definitely my wide receiver 3 as well. Did not expect to see Cooper Kupp going in the first round, but the production is going to be there. He is going to be a top 3 overall wide receiver for the next 3 years. So I can't debate it. I have him just a slight bit lower, going off at the 202 spot, but really any guy in this range that you look at, like the guy that I have in your place is Joe Burrow. Just looking at the quarterback scarcity, would I rather have, a quarterback of Joe Burrow or a guy like Cooper Kupp? I personally leaned a little bit more towards the quarterback position going for Burrow. So for you to have him there, though, I can't argue. Like win now teams, like he is super valuable. He's going to put up points. Man, fun pick. Did not expect that. We did not see each other's board, so this has been fun.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. You do have Burrow here coming in at what would have been your 111, now currently the 112 for our combined board. Is that correct?
That's correct. So Joe Burrow, he was going way too high. And you had a great article that you wrote about, how you actually projected Joe Burrow to be QB, I believe 13 or 14 this season. And you looked at some of the numbers. Great article if you have a chance to read it. But he's a good quarterback. He's really struggled against the cover too. They've had their struggles in this offense this year, and it's really shown. But he's still a second tier quarterback. I clump those top 6 together. You can break those guys down into tiers however you'd like. But basically, I have the Joe Burrow with, Watson, Dak, T-Law type range. Like it's not pretty, but he's the best of the rest right now. And I think having Joe Burrow at that point, you gotta appreciate that he's still a top end QB.
Yeah, and in terms of just positional value, he was actually still my next quarterback off the board.
Awesome.
I didn't think I would have him there, but man, some of these older vet QBs have just not lived up to the production that we thought we were going to see from them. So Joe Burrow is, obviously I had him ranked down there pretty low on the season, or at least in my projections. So I wasn't that high on him, but man, out of just true necessity or true lack of anybody else to go above him, yeah, he's my QB8 as well. And then right after him, though, we do have the first running back off the board, and it's close, but I couldn't pass up Jonathan Taylor yet. I'm goddamn scared about it, but he still holds immense value in the community. He's going to hold that at least for the rest of this year, or at least, halfway through this year, unless he keeps performing at this clip. But I think he's going to come back off the injury. Hopefully he gets a little bit more time to heal up, get 100%. Maybe this offense can figure some things out as well. And I think Jonathan Taylor he's still an elite talent. And I think him and this offense can at least turn it around a little bit to where Jonathan Taylor can still hold RB1 value.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor is a supreme talent. He needs to get healthy. If you have Jonathan Taylor and he does go off for 150 and 2 touchdowns like he's fully capable of, sell him. Please sell him. His value going into this year was never higher. Like people were taking him in the top 5 of a startup. Like his value has never been higher. And we're kind of having the realization that, yeah, he's young, but running backs tend to get hurt. If you can still get that full 3 first value for Jonathan Taylor, take it and run. Get out. But yeah, I'm with you. Jonathan Taylor's still up there. He's my running back 1. It just when you see a guy like that talented hurt right now, and if you're an owner of him, there's nothing you can really do because people are going to try and buy him for the cheap. So yeah, I'll roll away from the running back 1 into what we're going to have as QB 9, I believe. And that's going to be one Dak Prescott. And this closes off for me, the quarterback range of where I am remotely comfortable. These are the guys. Like you see this board right here, you see these 9 quarterbacks, and that's it. There's not a lot else that is out there that you feel comfortable having. And this is Dak being injured right now. I fully expect he's going to come back and he's going to be ready to go. I'm not worried about Cooper Rush. Not worried about anything that Jerry Jones says. There's no quarterback controversy here. Dak Prescott is still in that tier with Joe Burrow. He's the last of that group. And he still has immense value. He's one of those guys that if you have Dak Prescott, you can use to package up with something to get into that top 6 tier. But you don't want to down tier from him. We've seen the mistakes of down tiering this year, and this is kind of that last guy for me. Or where are you at with this quarterback room?
Yeah, I think what you're looking at on the board is the tier that you want to move up into. I don't care about making a tier up at literally any other quarterback, really. And I definitely don't want to down tier off of these guys. Like if you're down tiering, you better be getting an absolute haul. But we were seeing in the offseason, say Kyler in a first or Kyler for Matt Stafford in a first down tiers, and just the amount of value blasted away off your team is so heavy right now after these. It seemed like a good process to go after these old vet QBs that we thought were just going to produce, back end QB1 numbers, but we've seen this year they have not been doing that. The point per game difference between these upper echelon guys and those guys is just too much to separate. They're separated by a lot right now, and you don't want to be outside of this tier in a super flex. If you don't have a guy in this tier, it is hard to compete right now.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I was victim of tiering off of, Kyler Murray and Joe Burrow this offseason and doing exactly what you said. I went out and got Russ and Stafford, and I, got the plus, of course. Made me feel good at the time, but you can bet your ass I am not feeling good today. So, yeah. Who you got at the 10 slot here? Or I guess the 203.
203 slot. We're gonna make this board a little pretty, and we're gonna get a line going. His value has tanked, but it hasn't tanked that much. He's still an amazing talent. We just need to see him produce. Hopefully he gets a quarterback. Kyle Pitts off the board. Get Marcus Mariota, and while we're at it, get Arthur Smith out of there too. Let's get some new regime in there. Let's get a reset. You've got a great setup with him and Drake London running your passing attack. Let's get a guy in there who will pass the ball, get some creative play calling in there, and hopefully get him a rookie or a vet or somebody who can actually deliver him the ball.
Yeah, we were looking at some stats with Kyle Pitts, and his target share is there. The problem is it's a super low volume offense, and you have Marcus Mariota, who's one of the most inefficient quarterbacks throwing him the football. Still a supreme talent. As you mentioned, you really can't get anything better than this, but tight ends take time to develop. It takes time for these guys to put up the fantasy points that we want. And we got spoiled last year with Pitts' production, thinking, all right, he's going to take a step forward. He's going to score more touchdowns, right? But Mariota, we all kind of assumed that there would be a better quarterback situation. It just got way worse. So, yeah, I'm with you. I have Kyle Pitts actually in the exact same slot. No arguments here on his value. I think it's going to continue to stay sky high, just like my next guy here. One, AJ Brown.
Okay.
That dude. And we've had him not just the Dynasty community has had him as a top 5 Dynasty wide receiver for a long time. And the injuries kept happening. It just never really fully clicked in Tennessee. And he's really stepped up this season. The target share is there. The opportunity is there. Jalen Hurts, I love me some AJ Brown. If the dude is on the field, put him on my roster right now.
Yeah, for me being an absolute AJ Brown stan, everybody's trying to trade for him in one of our joint leagues in the Heisman, and I'm always just nope, can't do it. So I thought I was one of the highest. Apparently, you're even higher than me. So that's pretty cool to see. I'm glad we're both on the AJ Brown train.
It's that wide receiver love, man. I can't get away from it, and you'll kind of see a trend as I keep going here. But who you got next?
Yeah, we're gonna stay on the wide receiver trend, and I like my old guys. There's another elite quarterback. It is going to be attached to Stefan Diggs for the rest of his career, just like Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Same argument as Kupp. I don't really need to go into it again. Stefan Diggs is absolutely elite, and I will ride him until he dies.
He was my next wide receiver on the board as well. Stefan Diggs, like very, very next in the rankings for me too. Love Stefan Diggs. He was my biggest buy this offseason for whatever reason people were out on him. I get the age aspect, and I know wide receivers fall off after a certain point, but man, he is signed with Josh Allen through what's supposed to be his career, through his 32-year-old season. So he's got 3 more years on top of this current season tied to Josh Allen. He's going to be a top 6 wide receiver every single season, as long as he's on the field and healthy. Yeah, dude, give me Stefan Diggs. I'm so happy you have him up here. I was really worried that I was going to be the one to spoil that, but I am good for you, man. Good for you.
I actually have him over AJ Brown. So
yeah,
have him over AJ Brown, and in that same projection model that put Burrow out as QB 13, Stefan Diggs wide receiver 2.
Love it. Love to see it. We hit a spot here in the draft where, like, for me, I looked at everything and I was like, this is getting, I don't want to say gross, because like obviously there's still a lot of talent on the board, but like I have to take Trevor Lawrence right here. Like I have to take Trevor Lawrence, and it feels so bad to do. He's improved. The offense has gotten better. It's not like he's looking like a world beater, but in terms of like the quarterback value and where we're at with some of the players, I mean, he's QB 10. And I never thought I'd be saying that right now. Like the quarterback landscape has changed so much. And T-Law is my quarterback 10 sitting here in the middle of the second round. I mean, I don't know, where did you have T-Law at? I'm just curious to see if I'm a bit higher than you.
You are much higher than me. I didn't have T-Law for another like 12, 13, 14 picks.
See, I had him up here because of the guy I have next on my board. I couldn't justify it, but I'll let you take the next pick here. But I have too much love for quarterbacks, and it kind of is my last of this tier 2. Like it's so bad.
I understand it. It's just like we were talking about with the true gap at quarterback. I filled a lot of picks in before. There's only one other quarterback that I have kind of in this next couple of picks, and a lot of space until the next round of quarterbacks go. I know it's scarce. I know it's the quarterback position in Superflex, but I'm going to pick guys that are jumping up the boards. He's also jumping up a lot. It is going to be, I would have to scroll for a while to find him. Breese Hall, rookie running back phenom, looks absolutely amazing so far this year. It looks like he's taking over, unless Michael Carter vultures 2 of his touchdowns like he did this week. I mean, his game line, his fantasy score would have been absolutely insane if he had been able to punch those 2 in and they hadn't been stolen from him. But Breese Hall, an absolute talent. This is one of the guys you can actually buy in on youth. The community is going to absolutely love him and his value. This is where I start being okay with taking running backs over the wide receivers in this range.
We talked about Breece Hall a lot when the NFL draft happened, and saying that he's already Dynasty RB6, and people were like, oh, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of wild. Like, how can you put him up there and he's never played a snap in the NFL? Running back 2 right now. Running back 2. He's getting the passing work. The touchdowns will come. He looks great. I do have him as my RB3, but he's right there. And I'm just going to tell you the next pick, because it's my running back 2, which is Saquon Barkley. And the only reason I'm doing Saquon this high is he's done it before. He's healthy and he's doing it again. And you talk about old guys. I know he's an older running back, but the dude's just built different, man. And I just have such a hard time passing up on a guy like Saquon's talent. He looks electric. He looks like he's a man amongst boys when you watch, like if you watch that Packers Giants game and just the way he ran. and how quick he was and just how big he is. If he can stay healthy, he's my running back too.
Yeah, and the only reason I don't have him up there, I agree with the production take. It's kind of like my take with Kupp and Diggs. I just have a little bit more faith that they're going to stay healthy. If Saquon takes an injury, he's done. He's just done. So I fully understand having him up there. I just have some concerns and overall, but man, from where he started off in my rankings and in what I was valuing before the season compared to now, yeah, he has absolutely flown up my board. So
he's probably one of my biggest jumper this first 5 weeks of the season was Saquon. I mean, he was, people were writing him off. He definitely jumped up the board quite a bit, at least as far as RB12 to RB2 for me.
Yep, and I'm gonna go move this pick into the next guy that I have. I actually still have him above Saquon, and it's one of the younger running backs that's still like a little bit of youth on my team. It's going to be Swift. I know he's hurt right now, but he should be back after the bye. I still love DeAndre Swift. I love the talent. I know what we're seeing from the production of the replacements right now, but I still can't get myself away from, he doesn't even need the touches. He was dominating with only like 10 touches a game beforehand. So DeAndre Swift, I still have him up high. If he comes back and he's still getting that same workload, a couple weeks after he's back and healthy, might have to start moving him down. But for now, I still can't get off DeAndre Swift. He's my running back 3 in value.
For me, the best ability is availability. And that dude needs to stay available because he is special when he gets the ball and when he's on the field. So no arguing with me on there. He is actually he's my running back 5, but I don't feel good. Like when we're getting into that running back range where you just don't feel great. So I'm gonna give you my next pick, and it is one Trey Lance, and this is my last quarterback forever. I know he's hurt. We've talked about it to ad nauseum in the Heisman chat and the voice chats, but like you can't drop him any further. Like I debated, the only reason he's not above Trevor Lawrence is because Trevor Lawrence is playing right now.
Yep.
So it's really hard for me to do this, but this is the end of the QBs for me. This is it.
Yeah, and I think it's because even though he is hurt, he's one of the few guys that we see, like we're going to go through, some more quarterbacks here throughout the next 2 rounds, but he's truthfully one of the only ones that we can see actually making the jump up into that top 6, top 7 difference-making QB tier. And that's why you still have to value him. You're taking the loss on this season on him, but I mean, do you think Derek Carr is going to jump up into the top 6 of dynasty quarterbacks ever? There's just no chance that's ever happening. So he's one of the only ones. I know we haven't seen it over the first 2 years. He's going to come back year 3 though. And he's the only one that I have any faith in of being able to jump and catapult himself up, kind of like we saw Jalen Hurts do this year.
Yep. 100% agree. Like he's one of those guys that can catapult himself. And that's why you still got to believe in that talent, and people are going to follow that talent. So yeah. What do you got next?
Exactly. We're going to go back. We've been off of them for a little too long. We love our wide receivers here. And so we're going to go back. We're going to go back to them. We're going to go to if I can spell, we're going to go to CeeDee Lamb, Dallas Cowboys. Dak's coming back. I know it hasn't been great every single week, but it's Cooper Rush. I think with Dak coming back, these two we've seen a good connection out of them. CeeDee Lamb, I still believe he's a really good talent. I know he's never put it together in a full season, but I think he's talent-wise, he's up there with these guys. And if the Cowboys, they don't look all that bad this year compared to what we thought they were going to be, and they're not looking bad with Cooper Rush. I still value Dak up around where you do. So Dak's a good quarterback, and I think he can vault CeeDee Lamb up into a pretty high level wide receiver.
Yeah, CeeDee, he's still, even with Cooper Rush, is getting about, I think it's 10 targets on average a game. How efficient those are vary from game to game, but CeeDee's still putting up good numbers. I'm really excited for Dak to get back, see this product on the field, because that's what we wanted all offseason. CeeDee's finally the one. Cooper's gone, so let's see what Dak does. Yeah, I love me some CeeDee Lamb. Great spot for him. And back-to-back picks here, I'm going to go with another young wide receiver, and that is Jalen Waddle. He's electric. I know there is another wide receiver in town who is, Tyreek Hill, supreme talent. But Jalen Waddle has shown that he can produce on the same field with Tyreek Hill. He can still break off those long runs. He can still score touchdowns. The only concern I have with Jalen Waddle is who is throwing him the football. Unfortunately, both of his quarterbacks have gotten knocked out with concussions. Tua is practicing. He's on the practice field.
He's probably not retiring if he's practicing.
Probably not retiring, so that we can erase the Tua narrative of being wiped off the Dolphins roster. Love Jalen Waddle's talent and how electric he can be with Tua. So give me some Tua and Waddle.
Yep. I don't have Waddle up that high. He's a little bit lower for me. He's behind the guy that I'm actually going to take here at the turn of the first top 24 valued players going into a hybrid, I guess, running back wide receiver. I don't know if we can really love him. Maybe that's why he's a little bit lower in my ranks compared to some, but Deebo Samuel, he's on a very well schemed offense. It may not be fully great this year, but we saw him be, wide receiver one overall with Jimmy G last year. So, or wide receiver 2 behind Kupp. So Deebo Samuel, he's an absolute monster on the field. As long as he can stay healthy, he's going to keep producing like that. And, he's still young. People look at him like he's a little bit of a old commodity right now, but I think he should still be up here. What do we have him at, QB or wide receiver 8 right now?
For me, I'm not as high on Deebo. He was my biggest offseason sell. I do not own any more Deebo. I felt like last year was his, rising to the precipice, and it's time to sell. Like, if you had Deebo on your roster, he stayed healthy finally. He's been healthy so far this year. He's looked good, but it's just one of those things where I love watching him play football, but I hate to watch him play football when he's on my fantasy team because he just runs so hard and with such a reckless abandon that I'm like, any given play, that guy could go out. And with all the running back touches and stuff like that, I still have him up here. I think he's a few slots lower. I think me and you might have Waddle and Deebo flip-flopped.
Probably.
But yeah. So let's stick with wide receivers because this is where we're at right now. Give me Devonte Adams. Another old guy producing with his college quarterback, still working some chemistry issues out. Clearly, Hunter Renfrow took him out from another monster game. He had a great game yesterday, but for whatever reason, they couldn't run the level route correctly, and the timing was off. Devonte got jammed at the line, which threw things off a little bit, but I figured, Hunter Renfrow was going to do everything in his power. It looked like he was just kind of blindly running his route. He's like, this is going to Devonte. So, but yeah, anyways, Devonte Adams is going to be a wide receiver 1. He's got an easy 2 to 3 year window with Carr. He's another supreme talent that isn't reliant on speed, that I don't see his skills diminishing because of age. So give me Devonte over Deebo for me by actually like 2 or 3 receivers.
Okay, yeah, and I fully understand it. He's up there in the same type of category with the Kupp and Diggs. We just haven't seen him produce as well on this Raiders offense as we had seen him producing with Aaron Rodgers, and that's why he's going to slip a little bit here compared to those guys. So fully agree with you, though. He deserves to be up here in the wide receiver 1 range, back end wide receiver 1 in terms of value. We are going to move over from the wide receiver run that we just had, though, and move over to the RB1 so far on this year, Mr. Nicholas Chubb. I can't deny what he's putting on the field. If we're going to elevate Saquon Barkley up in here to the RB3 overall, I think we have to do the same for Chubb. And he was the only player I had left ahead of Adams that you just took off ahead of me. So Nick Chubb going here at the 5th highest RB. It doesn't feel good, but I can't deny what they're doing with that offense. And we still have Deshaun Watson coming back to make this offense even better. I couldn't find a way not to get him up here.
We usually rank in tiers, so I know it's difficult sometimes to put a number to it. And I have Christian McCaffrey right here as well. So if you want to throw him on the board, I actually have Christian above Nick Chubb simply because of the pass catching ability. And similar age. I think CMC is actually even younger, but Nick Chubb is the best running back, pure running back in the NFL. He hasn't really taken a beating. I love the way Nick Chubb runs, and I feel like he's just going to be a guy that consistently stays in the NFL. You're going to get Deshaun Watson back. It's going to, force defenses to respect the pass and respect the deep ball. So I can't argue with what you're going to see from Chubb for the next 2, hopefully 3 years. But I do have Christian McCaffrey just ahead of him. So,
have anybody else ahead of him, or are you taking CMC here?
I'm taking CMC right here. Yeah, give me CMC right here, back to back. That was my next pick on the board. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey again. It's just the passing. If he's healthy on the field, he's unreal.
Yeah, and one of the few reasons that I have Chubb over McCaffrey, just besides the production that we've seen this year, is just the instability that he's going to see in that offense. Now, if he gets traded, and the rumors of him going to the Bills. Yeah, no, this is flip-flopping back. we're not having that conversation anymore. But as we currently stand today, I'm not going to project him to get traded to the perfect destination. So do still have Chubb over McCaffrey, but can't fault you for wanting the receiving production in our PPR leagues. So after CMC, I only had one guy again ahead of CMC, and because we're in tight end premium, I don't care again how old he is. It's Travis Kelsey. Can't argue the production that he's putting up, but we keep asking for or projecting for him to start taking a down tier, taking a step back from his elite level of production, and he just doesn't do it. So 25 yards and 4 touchdowns isn't exactly the line I'm expecting from Travis Kelsey every time, but it'll get the damn job done. So
he had 7 catches to get it done. If you told me Travis Kelsey had 7 catches for 25 yards, I'd be like, something's not right. But when you add in the 4 touchdowns, and I think 3 of them were within the 5-yard line, it makes sense now. It makes a lot of sense. I'm with you. He was actually my very next player. I was going to pick Kelsey if you didn't. So Travis Kelsey, hands down, belongs in that top tier. And you could argue over the next 2 years, you might want to take Kelsey over Kyle Pitts, but full on dynasty, yeah, you got to have Pitts over Kelsey. But the dude's tied to Patrick Mahomes. He's the focal point of that offense. Give me some Travis Kelsey.
Yeah, I think you have an argument if we're playing in 2 to 3 year windows to have Travis Kelsey above Kyle Pitts. You can't do it because the community will not value it like that. So even though you're getting that production, I don't think you could value it that way. But but love Kelsey here in the kind of 30 overall range. So who do you got moving into your next pick here at 306?
We're going back to wide receivers, my man. We're going to go with DK Metcalf. And I have always been a lot higher on DK Metcalf than a lot of people. This offseason, he was one of my big buys just because people were going to be – I did not expect this from Geno Smith, but people were going to be crapping on DK's quarterback situation. And rightfully so. Coming into this year, no one expected Geno Smith to be what he is. And DK's produced very, very well. Whether it's going to be Geno Smith for the rest of the year or for the next year, I'm comfortable with having DK Metcalf. He is a different animal. He belongs higher, it feels like. He belongs higher, but if he gets a quarterback, in the next year or 2, or if Geno Smith can stay this efficient, then I have no problem elevating him. Where are you at on DK?
I only actually have one wide receiver above him. So I guess it's my next pick. We'll just get right into that one. And I'm going with the youth. I'm going with the rook. We're going to take Drake London over DK Metcalf. And I absolutely love the talent of Drake London. He was my wide receiver 1 coming out this year in pre-draft process and number 1 wide receiver in the draft. With the youth that he has, I know DK Metcalf is young as well, but I think I have a little bit more faith that the Atlanta offense with a brand new quarterback, because I do think Geno Smith is probably staying around in Seattle. But with the report that we just saw, Drew Lock might be starting here in the next couple of weeks because he's nipping at the heels of Geno Smith.
Hey, Pete Carroll, if you're listening, stop it. Come on, man. What are we doing?
Pete Carroll, what an absolute legend of a human. But no, I still have London over Metcalf, but I think I think they're back to back in mine. So either way you want to go, I'm going to go with the youth, and I'm going to go with what I think the community value is a little bit higher. So that's why I chose Lennon over Metcalf, but I don't think you're wrong either way.
Yeah, I'm going to keep the wide receiver run going, and I'm going to pick Tyreek Hill. I have Tyreek above London. London I have a little bit lower just because there is going to be uncertainty for him, not just for the remainder of this year. We need a quarterback in Atlanta for both Pitt's sake and for Drake London's sake. So I want to see what that product looks like on the field. I want to see who actually goes there. Is it a developmental quarterback? Is it someone that is going to step right in and seem like they're going to produce? And as we've seen with quarterbacks, like we just don't know. Like we just don't know what these guys are going to be as they come into the league. So I'm a little bit lower on Drake London. It's still in my top 12, but I have Tyreek higher than him. And I don't think you can argue with what Tyreek has done so far with Tua. Everyone was wondering if Tyreek could thrive without Patrick Mahomes, and clearly those two can both be successful without each other. So I was getting a lot of crap in the offseason for Tyreek Hill, the love that I had for him, and I'm very happy I stuck with my guns on that. He's definitely proven me right so far.
Yeah, as long as I think once Tua comes back, and if he comes back to the level that he was playing at, I think him and Adams are probably right next to each other. You just have a little bit of question at the quarterback position right now with the, Skyler playing that quarterback. I don't really like that situation, but no, I think if Tua gets back in there, Tyreek Hill being up here, it's kind of like he's in that group of old vets that are just going to produce for the next couple of years and produce well for your team. So don't hate it at all. I am going to move us back into the running back position. We're going to go for another vet at the running back position, Austin Eckler up here at our RB 7 overall.
Good for you.
You guys see the claps coming for me. Yeah. I mean, it's just production, right? Like he's a receiving back, so he should have a longer shelf life in the NFL. He's attached to a really good offense with Justin Herbert and the Chargers over there. He finally got his touchdowns here in the last couple of weeks, and so he's just a great running back. I know he's old. He's a little bit older, but I'll take the production while it's there.
Yeah, I'll pick another old running back right after you with Joe Mixon. I do have Eckler ahead of him, so I love the pick there. Eckler, with him, it was the touchdowns. He was still running back 13 without, going in, I think, to the past 2 weeks, and everyone was kind of thinking Eckler is dead. Oh my goodness, he's not getting the production we want. He's not getting, the touchdowns. He's going to find his way to the end zone. He's not going to probably have 20 touchdowns again like he did last year, but he's going to find the end zone. Don't worry about that. And Joe Mixon here, this one scared me. This one, it is a little bit of a risk because he's at 2.7 yards a carry. I guess this last game he did, have a little bit of a breakout. That running game looked a lot better, and that needs to continue. But he's going to get the volume. They're going to throw him the football, and he's going to find the end zone as well. Same kind of issues that Eckler had, but more volume on the ground base for me. So I had to take Joe Mixon here.
Yeah, I only have one other running back ahead of Joe Mixon, who we'll get to here in a bit. But I think I'm gonna be making some picks that are gonna come off your board a little bit later. This one is one of my probably spiciest picks on the board. We're gonna get back to the quarterback position, and I bet it's not gonna be a quarterback that you're thinking it's going to be. Kirk Cousins is going to be my next quarterback off the board, and it's simply because out of all of the aged vets right now, he's the best one out of them so far. He's producing at a back end QB1 rate, and compared to Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, I know Dak Prescott's hurt, but he's a hell of a lot better than Stafford or any of the other guys up there right now. And so this is where I have to start throwing in my old quarterbacks, and Kirk Cousins is the best of them right now.
I have Kirk Cousins here in the fourth round, in the top 48 still. But I can't argue anything you just said. I mean, he's the one doing it. Like, talking about guys you wanted to tear down to in the offseason, like Kirk Cousins was one of them, but he was below what you saw with Stafford last year, what we hoped Russ would be with Denver. So, yeah, he was just kind of the non-sexy name. But, hey, I can't fault you for wanting to put him up here. It is super flex. That quarterback value is important. I'm going to shift us right back to wide receivers because I feel like T. Higgins has fallen way too far. So I do have T. Higgins right here. And I do want him to leave. I hope for our fantasy sake, I hope he leaves Cincinnati. I hope they aren't able to bring him back. It's one of those things where Jamar Chase or T. Higgins has the week, and it's one of the two. They will have a great week for you, but I want that consistency. That's what I look for in my wide receiver ones, and he's a very talented player. He's looked incredible in Cincinnati, even alongside a guy like Jamar Chase. He's still able to produce, but I hope he leaves for his own fantasy sake for that value to skyrocket.
Yeah, and I just can't. I bet there's some people screaming at us watching this, yelling, "Why the hell is T. Higgins still on the board?" All those people putting him up there at wide receiver 6 in this offseason. I bet they're not too happy right now. But the consistent production just isn't going to be there while he's on this offense. And truthfully, it might not be there for Chase either. So I'm not going to play the hope and wait game to see where he goes in the future. I'm just going to take the production of other guys ahead of him that I believe will produce more right now. And I do have a couple of other guys ahead of Higgins, though, a couple of other positions. We're going to go back to the quarterback position, and I think I'm going to be hammering quarterbacks here for a little bit. We're going to go to my next favorite vet of the quarterback position, and Derek Carr. It hasn't been pretty, but it looks a hell of a lot better if Devonte Adams catches that touchdown last week. So,
very true.
Yeah, so his stat line would look a lot better. Probably jump up a couple spots in the overall fantasy standings as well. He's just the next quarterback that I have the most faith in, that he can be the QB 14 week over week. So he's the next quarterback that I had lined up in this position.
Yeah, I can't argue with what Derek Carr has done. With Devonte Adams, he's going to have the opportunity every single week. They do have Waller if he can be healthy. So there are some question marks around Derek Carr, but that's the tier you're in. I'm actually have Russ right next, right after I had him after Cousins because I have Cousins up here, but I can't just disregard everything Russ has done in his career. It hasn't been pretty. I can't debate that, but like Russell Wilson with that team, Javante's hurt, Garrett Bowles now, their left tackle is injured. I do think it's going to be a struggle this year, but Russ isn't going anywhere anytime soon. They're going to figure it out. I don't know if Nathaniel Hackett is the guy for this offense, but Russell Wilson will figure it out. I have full faith in him. It's been a rough year. It's been a rough year for this tier of quarterbacks.
It's looked damn rough. I have one other QB ahead of him, and it's a little bit of projecting, but I'm with you that the historical production for Russ has been great, but until I see it in Denver, I have to tank him a little bit further than what you have on your board. But like I said, it's only one. It's going to be my next pick. We've consolidated our quarterbacks into a pretty similar group here, it seems like. So I'm going to go with the guy who's coming back off the injury. It's connected to our two top 24 wide receivers. It's Tua Tagovailoa for me. We saw the blow-up game this year. What was that, week 2 against the Ravens? So we know he can put up the numbers, and he's kind of the guy that I consider all of these old age vets with. So I think he can produce up with them, and he has the youth. So still not ahead of Cousins or Carr for me, but I have jumped Tua over Russ with Russ's production so far this year. It's just looked bad, and I would not be doing this if we did not have the report coming out that Tua is practicing already.
I don't care. Like, I am not in on Tua. I know he had the one game, and yeah, it's he can do it. That's a possibility. That was a career game. 469 yards and 6 touchdowns is not going to happen again for Tua. He might improve, but from the other 3 games that we've seen, or 2 games and 2.5 that we've seen, it hasn't been great from Tua. It's just been pedestrian average Tua Tagovailoa that we've seen all of last season. I don't love it, but again, we're in that quarterback range where a guy you want to take a chance on is a guy that has 2 weapons that we have in our top 35 players, 30 players. So yeah, if you have Tyreek and Jalen Waddle there, I can't fully fault you, but man, I have a tough time buying into a guy that we've seen one game from.
It doesn't feel great. I'm right there with you. Not feel great, but at QB 14, there's just a vast void of quarterbacks from QB like 10 to QB 20. It's just a vast void of quarterbacks who are all almost roughly the same. Two was just the guy who came up.
Yeah, my next guy, like I debated between a quarterback here and the guy who has had like the fall from graces. I have to put Naji Harris here finally.
I was right there with you. He was my next one too.
Naji was a top 10 valued. He was the running back 2 coming into the season. And we're like, volume based, and he's gonna get the targets. And the foot injury definitely seems like it's bothering him more than they're leading on to believe, is what I'm choosing to believe. We all knew the offensive line was going to be bad, but it has not been great for one Naji Harris.
Yeah, hopefully with Kenny Pickett, maybe he can take a step forward pretty quickly. I know his next couple of weeks are pretty rough, so we probably won't see a bounce back from this offense until after they face these good defenses coming up here. But yeah, I honestly thought that I was going to be taking Naji well ahead of you, and it looks like we're both tanking him down. It's just so hard. I have him over Mixon yet. I think that's my only difference, is I still have him over Mixon with just the youth side of things, and he's still a fantastic catching running back. I still think even with Kenny Pickett in there, is probably going to be seeing his 5-6 targets a week. So I have him a little bit higher in terms of positional value, but it's pretty close where I have him in the overall value. It's been a true fall from grace for my RB2 this offseason.
Where do we have him at right now? What RB? What do we have on the board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
RB9.
Jeez.
RB9. It's tough, man. I love me some Naji Harris, but it's been a fall from grace. But we're going to go into my next pick. It's going to be the opposite way for this guy. This guy has come onto the scene. He was actually already on the scene. We just didn't want to believe it was actually true. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I probably wouldn't personally have him exactly up this high, but the community value on him is absolutely insane. And he is the alpha of this offense right now. And Jared Goff hasn't looked all that bad throughout the first 5 weeks, at least when Amon-Ra's been on the field. I know they put up that goose this last week. So hopefully, Amon-Ra, I think they've got the bye this week, coming back off of that into week 7. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's a true elite wide receiver, I think, and is going to keep producing like that. So I don't have any problem bringing him up all the way here to where we have him.
I'm glad you took him off the board here, because I had a big debate, and I kind of felt bad putting him down because he was my next pick as well. But I was discussing like Amon-Ra or T. Higgins, and I probably should switch the two, to be honest with you, as I look at it. But yeah, supreme talent, great target share. It's obvious he can do it with everyone on the field. I want him to get healthy, and he can definitely be a guy that elevates himself into the top 6 if he can keep this up and do this, for the full year, or if they get a quarterback. Like if they get a better quarterback than Jared Goff, like Amon-Ra still has the ability to elevate himself from where he's at right here.
And we have him a lot lower than consensus. Still wide receiver 7 on keep trade cut.
Yeah, I would love the talent, love what he's done, but man, yeah, it's just a bit too high for me right now. I am going to go into a quarterback that I'm sure you're probably not going to be too fond of, but I don't think he's retiring. I don't think he's dead, but Matt Stafford. It's just the elbow for me, and it's going to be a problem for him this year. Like, it really is. Matthew Stafford is going to have this elbow issue all year, and it's not going to be pretty.
Interestingly enough, you say that I didn't like him. He was my next pick on the board.
Okay.
So we were both there. We both tanked him down a pretty good amount from probably where we had him at the beginning of the offseason. He hasn't performed well at all. It's been gross. He does have that elbow issue, and it looks like it's playing an effect on him. Absolutely refuses to he also has a problem with his eyes and not seeing Allen Robinson. So that hurts the offense. He'd rather see, Tyler Higbee and his brick hands drop the ball 5 times a game than throw the ball to Allen Robinson. So, maybe Sean McVay can give him some pointers and tell him who to throw the ball to a little bit more or something. But whole offense hasn't been great. I think, what was it? I saw today the Chicago Bears have scored more points than the Rams so far this season. And we hate that offense.
You could not have told me that, and I would have believed. Like, if you would have put money that the Bears would have, more points on offense than the Rams at this point in the year, I'd laugh at you. Like, Allen Robinson, like you said, just a supreme disappointment. And unfortunately, we're at that point in the year where I don't see it getting any better. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, it is what it is. And Stafford just has the rapport with Kupp. That offensive line is awful. They can't block for anything. Stafford keeps holding the ball too long, but there's hope for the future. I don't think it's nail in the coffin.
Hopefully it's not fully dead. We've got another guy here that's attached to one of the quarterbacks that I thought was going to be spicy, but apparently not all that spicy. We're going to go with his running back, Kirk Cousins running back, Dalvin Cook, here in the middle of the 4th. It's another thing where, I know he's older, but he's attached to a pretty good offense right now. And we had some concerns with his usage coming into the season. It's looked a lot better over the last couple of weeks here, though. So Dalvin Cook is my next highest running back here in the middle of the 4th.
I'm going to just keep a run going here because I actually have a run of running backs, but I have Javonte. Javonte has, he's injured. I get it, but he's 22 years old. I know how we view these positions, and his value is eventually going to come back. He's eventually going to step foot on the football field again, and he's going to be a good player again. Like, I just don't have any doubt about it. It just takes time, and so when you're looking at like this range of running back and this range of where we're at, I'm willing to take my bet on Javonte just because he is so young and he has that ability to come back.
Yep, and with the injury that he's got, I actually didn't even have him in my top 4 rounds. So
yep, fair.
I have 2 other guys above him, and guys I'm probably fine with just pivoting off of if I do own Javonte anywhere. So it's just the injury. We know he's going to be out for a long time, and we know that value is going to stay flat. So I'm gonna put my stock into some other guys here at this round of the picks. We're going to move it back over into our wide receiver position, though, probably for the next 2 picks of mine. Since you said you're on a little RB run, I'm on a little wide receiver run. And a guy who's disappointed this year with the quarterback that we thought was going to elevate him, Michael Pittman, has been probably hindered by the performance of Matt Ryan so far this season compared to Carson Wentz. Maybe they wish they could have a take-backsies on that one. Although Carson Wentz still probably hasn't been much better unless he's thrown to Diami Brown. So Michael Pittman here is my second last wide receiver, cracking in my top 48 value players in Dynasty.
Yeah, YOLO Wentz, I know they wish they had him back. It has not been pretty. Pittman has been hurt. So there's been some different factors at play. That very first game looked incredible. We all thought, oh my goodness, Michael Pittman and Matt Ryan, this is going to be incredible for the full season. And it took a shit. So, but I'm with you. I have Michael Pittman up here as well. My next player is going to be one Derrick Henry. Same kind of concept of these old guys. I apologize. Alvin Kamara first.
Okay. Got it first.
So sorry. Screwed it up for us. But yeah, Alvin Kamara, just because of the pass catching ability, his age, hopefully they don't continue to slam him into the A gap, but he can do it all. Like that's the best part of Alvin is he can do it all. And yeah, he's going to have a 6-game suspension most likely next year, but I kind of bake that into his value. I do think he could be a riser that's up there in that Eckler Mixon range when healthy and when on the field.
Yeah, I don't have it up in my top 48. It's mostly because of that suspension coming here next year and the usage we've seen so far this season. He did have the blow up game last week, but he's a do it all guy, but he's the second do it all guy on that team because Taysom Hill. No, I'm not going that far. We're not putting Taysom Hill above. So we're not doing that.
Kill the episode. We're done. I'm out.
Let's wrap it up with these two final picks, though. My next one is going to be another wide receiver who's producing on an elite offense tied to the GOAT. Mike Evans is going to be my wide receiver here. Godwin, we still have him come back off the injury. He does have the youth, but we don't know who his quarterback's going to be for the future. So I'm just going to take the 1,000-yard and 8-touchdown guy who he's been for the last 8 seasons, consistent Mike Evans. Had to get a Texas A&M guy in there, maybe too. Maybe that was a little bit of it, but no,
Maybe.
I do just love Mike Evans. And love what we've seen from him on the field so far. Even when this offense hasn't looked great, Mike Evans still produced.
Yep, no arguments here. I do like him. He's not in my top 48. I do have Chris Godwin actually ahead of him. I have Deontay ahead of him as well. To wrap this up, I will finish off with Derrick Henry, just because he's a freaking animal, man. I know that when you're looking at positional value, when you're looking at player value, like he's going to put up more points than any of these guys in this range. Like he just is. I just don't know if he's going to be doing it for more than 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. But it's hard to not have the RB4 overall so far through 5 games. Not
He could be a league
48.
winner,
Right.
Yep.
So fully understand. Maybe he deserves a little bit of a bump too. But it is hard not to bring that age into account. Before we get out of here, let's wrap up with how many guys do you got left that we did not pick here in the top 48?
So I have the ones that we missed. I'm just going to list them off real quick. So I have Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, and then I do have Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. Okay, and that pretty much wraps it up.
You're on a little bit more of the youth. I went a little bit more of the running backs. So I have 3 guys that we did not pick. I have Damien Pierce, actually 1 spot ahead of Derrick Henry. Doesn't feel great, but the community absolutely loves this dude. So I'm gonna go with a little bit of the community value, and if he continues to produce at his rate that he's producing at so far, he's going to easily be up here by this point next season, or in startups next season. Then I did have Derrick Henry, and then closed out mine with a final quarterback, just because I wanted to get one more quarterback in there. Aaron Rodgers. He's still, it hasn't looked as great, with Devonte Adams leaving, but he's still a quarterback, still highly valued. If he can get us, hopefully he doesn't retire after this year, and he's probably worth a top 48 value pick.
And as we wrap this up, I know we're over an hour. I don't want to go too much longer, but like looking at the board here, now that we have everything set, like what are some of the trends you've noticed? What is something that's kind of stood out to you that may have surprised you through this? And I know I kind of put you on the spot for this, so I'll kind of tell you what mine was. I mean, obviously the quarterbacks were like one of the biggest things for me, where I realized like we have the top 6 with, I'm going to go top 7 even. I put Watson because he can teeter between the two tiers. And then you have Burrow and Dak. And then there's like a bigger gap where you have the T-Laws, the Lances, and Cousins, and it just gets so gross at quarterback.
Yeah, not my takeaway. I kind of saw this one coming in, but I couldn't even put Lawrence in there. So like, just telling you where I had Lawrence, I had Lawrence down there in that bottom right hand corner with the Cousins, Wilson, and Carr tier.
Okay.
I need to see more from Lawrence. I know we saw some couple good weeks at the start of the season, but I still haven't seen enough to vault him up into the tier with Burrow and Dak. Other than the fact that I should probably bump him up a little bit higher just because of the community value with him, but I can't bump him up personally in my own value so far yet. I think the biggest takeaway from me here, look at that first round, and there's no green. It's a different world. It's a different world we live in right now than the start of even last year's startups. I mean, you probably had 3-4 running backs in the top round of ADP, and it's just not the case anymore. So looking at the final, I'm going to go pull up Adico's ADP. So actually the only one we did have in the top was Jonathan Taylor at the 105, and then it was Naji Harris and Christian McCaffrey at the 201 and the 202. Okay. So very close to being up there, but no running backs in the top 12. And it's the shift we've seen. It's the shift that we're trying to, get people to kind of take a look at, and we think it's probably the right way to move forward. And then last one here, just Mark Andrews above Kyle Pitts. If anybody told you that halfway through this offseason, I don't think anybody would be believing you. Kyle Pitts is the wonder child, but not producing, got to drop him.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised how many running backs that I ended up putting in my own ranks, and even that ended up on this. I know the age aspect, but it's just those guys are going to produce, and if they're healthy on the field, those guys are going to produce for you. The problem is, as you see with Najee, one injury, lack of production, their value plummets so freaking much. And that's all it takes. Javonte, he was up there in the second round, by a Deco ADP. And now here I have him. You said he wasn't even in your top 48. I had to put him in here because I'm looking at these aging running backs and, I'm looking long term, but it doesn't feel great. So all it takes is one little hit for those running backs to plummet. Monra has his injury and he's still up here in our top 48. In fact, he probably would be higher if he would have been playing, fully healthy the last few games. So that wide receiver value is going to stick around. You see 29-year-olds. We got Cooper Kupp in the first. We got Diggs in the second. Devonte Adams. Like, the staying power is there for wide receivers.
Yep, they're just your warp difference maker guys, and we're going to have a lot of those wide receivers above a lot of the running backs compared to, conventionally we probably would have had a lot more of these running backs moving up into the first, early second, and now they're back into the, 2020s in terms of overall value. So I know this probably isn't what a lot of people would have for the running backs, but hopefully we're on the right side of this trend of moving these running backs down a little bit. And then just a reminder real quick before we wrap out here, it's not a true mock draft. I know we've been using pick values and stuff like that. This is just pure values of the players. We're not trying to build teams here. We're not doing any of that. So just start close to our overall rankings right here.
We will do the mock draft next week. So if you are interested, let us know. Hit us up in Discord. You can find us there in Destination Devy, or you can at us on Twitter. Figure out a way to get in touch with us. We do need active people for that, and that will be a true 8-round mock of where we're at with these values. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So any last things before we go, Cody?
No, man, it was good to get live for the first time. I think it went pretty well. And so also good to, and like we said, this isn't a true mock draft, but this is the fantasy draft room. We got to do some drafts every once in a while. So kind of did one today. We'll do one next week. And yeah, man, break us out of here.
All right. Well, thanks so much again for joining us here in the fantasy draft room.